Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. No, do not cancel, do not unfollow us, clear it. It is me, Simon Collings, hosting you for this evening. And I'm joined by our first guest, the man who is as ever present here as John Wells in a sex clinic. It is Danny, the GFP. How are we doing, Danny?
Can you say sex clinic? Oh, yeah. Is that not a bit presumptuous?
Well, no, I just, John, when you're in the WhatsApp groups with John, you understand where he spends most of his time. And these are his confessions that come out late at night.
He keeps going to the sex clinic after some sex. And I go, this isn't how it works, John. Leave.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite grasped that yet, but we haven't told him. We'll just let him carry on.
Sad times. Yeah, I'm all right. You?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sure we'll get into the weekend, but
don't.
Just about recovered from that. And our next guest this evening is a man who really needs no introduction. It's the one and only Geoff Arsenal. How are we doing, Geoff?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, Simon. Thank you very much. And good evening to all the listeners. See how we get on tonight.
Not been any more holidays? You normally jet setting somewhere or other?
Marrakesh a couple of weeks ago. It was beautiful, and I recommend it to anybody. It's unbelievable out there.
Very nice. And finally, it's the most popular man in Brighton since Elton John toured there. It is Josh. How are we doing, Josh?
I'm great. Summer is here. I got sunburnt at the weekend, so watch out, gingers. You'll need to start buying some sun cream.
That is impressive, considering it's not even over 20 degrees yet. But we'll start, as always, with the bit where everyone turns off. Danny, can you give us a loan watch and an update on the injury news?
I don't know why I bother. Right, the under-23s beat Swansea 1-0 with Charlie Gilmore scoring, and he follows me on Twitter. I don't know why. I think if he hears this, he'll quickly solve that and unfollow me immediately. But yeah, well done, Charlie. So all we need to do there is we're 3 points clear at the top of that league, ahead of Leicester, with one game to go, same goal difference. I think we're away to West Ham, and Leicester are playing Derby. All we need to do is not lose, and then they are under-23 league champions. And this is when someone will point out to me that after this it goes into some kind of playoffs, but it doesn't. It says a green for number one, and there's no blues for the rest of them. So I'm gonna go along with the fact that we're gonna win it, which isn't too bad. Because in a couple of years ago we were in the second tier of the, as it was then, the under-21 league. So yeah, hopefully they'll win that, and that'd be fantastic. The under-18s are currently playing at the moment. And go and have a look at George Bird's site. I just said, oh, look, we're 4-0 up. And Josh shouted, yeah, I told you that just now because I don't listen. So they're 2-2 up after the first leg. Is this the final or the semi-final?
Semis.
Okay, so we're 2-2 up the first leg. And then who scored the first goal? Arsenal lead 1-0. Balogun scored. Then Ballard makes it 2-0. Then Burton makes it 3-0. And then who's got the fourth one? Smith Rowe has got the fourth one. So we're 6-2 up on aggregate. Blackpool might as well bugger off down to the beach because this tie is over. So now next one we're going to move on to. Congratulations to the ladies. They beat Everton 2-1 at Everton in the Women's FA Cup semi-final. As usual, Soccerway doesn't bother giving me the goal scorers or anything like that because that would be useful. Yeah, so they're now into the Women's FA Cup final, which will be important for us because we've got no chance in the league. And that is going to be against Chelsea on the 5th of May, a 5:30 kickoff. And I think the BBC have said they're going to show that game. I think they might have showed the two semi-finals as well. Arsenal are 5th, Chelsea are top. That's more like it. They've haven't lost a game all season with a goal difference of plus 25. So if we beat them in the final, that would be a wonderful thing indeed. Injury-wise, I don't think we've got anything other than we didn't know. Mkhitaryan, it says, out for another 4 weeks. Cazorla, 544 days. Back in 3 weeks, apparently. If they're going to cancel his contract or he retires or whatever it is, hopefully it just comes out of the last. Actually, going by the way we played against Newcastle, he could have done a lot better than most of those that are playing there. Before we started, I said to Simon, who should we have as our loan watch? And he said Joel Campbell. And so his last 5 league games for the club, they've won them all. 3-1, 3-0, 1-0, 2-0, 1-0. And he's playing for Real Betis. He's played 2 of those games. Both he came on played the last 7 minutes, one at left wing, one at right wing. So he's not doing too bad. Got to mention, we're sponsored by Gav from She-War with the ArsenalShirts.com. He's asked us just to give it a mention. He's given us bugger all for doing it because he's too mean. But he said he might chuck us a shirt at the end of the season. So wonderful listeners, I know you're listening and I know you care. Go and have a look around his site. If you like something, buy it. And then maybe at the end of the season, he'll give us something and we can give it away as a prize. But if it's anything like the last lot of prizes that we gave away, which was the summer of 2016, which I still haven't sorted out, it may be 2020 before you get them. We might have a new manager before you get them. So the ArsenalShirts.com, go and have a look, make Gav happy. And if you've got any shirts you don't want that aren't Puma, go and tweet him at She-War and then he might buy them off you. And I think that's all. Is there anything I've forgotten to do?
I think that's it.
Apart from get to the fucking point.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Everyone will be back now. They'll be listening again. So don't worry.
They've had a wee, wash their hands.
Yeah,
it's all
exactly.
okay. Go on then.
Right, we'll start with last Thursday night, which was the CSK Moscow game. Went into it 4-1 up, but not an easy ride, Josh. Do you want to take us through it and what you made of the game?
Yeah, this was, I think at the face of it, I've come after doing the radio show for that night and looked at it again and thought, well, to be honest, when we first drew CSKA, our first thought for the away leg was, oh, it'd be good if we scraped a draw. Or, we'll be lucky if we get away with a 1-0 loss. And to be honest, to get away with a 2-2 draw, we've progressed through it. It's tournament football, knockout competition. It doesn't really matter about the performance. But that being said, there were some awful moments through the game. I think the back four that, it's the same back four that lined up against us in 2006. Where we lost 1-0 out there. That shows how kind of well experienced that back three is, plus the goalkeeper. But overall, we were just completely overrun in midfield and just looked like we were missing something from that final third. Whether or not that was Mkhitaryan and it was the injury from there, I don't really know. We've also had the problem with Mustafi as well. I'm sure we're going to mention him across the rest of the podcast. He just looks like he's missing something at the moment, whether or not that's something as simple as just a brain in general, but he looks to have lost a bit of recovery pace that he may have built his career around, and just seems to be losing his men left, right and centre. I don't know if anyone else feels that, but I think otherwise, the 2 goals that made it look respectable for us, Ramsey's goal was great just to finish it off, and Welbeck as well. But we only really turned up in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, let's talk about Mustafi a bit, because he obviously got even more criticism on the Sunday, but he's the only one of that back four really who seems to play, certainly with the centre backs, the ever present one, obviously because Koscielny's injury and the problem he's had there. Geoff, what have you made of him in the past few weeks? Because obviously last summer, it looked like he was going to go at one point, I think, into Milan and potentially even go on loan, how much Wenger was going to get rid of him. And now he seems to play every week, but he also seems to be the defender who gets the most criticism. What have you made of him, Geoff?
You know what? I think it's been fair, the criticism. I've never really. I mean, I'll give him a chance when he first come to the club, but on seeing him, he's just not really the type of defender that we need, mate. I don't think his concentration is good enough, especially for the Premier League. And all I ever see him doing is trying to win the ball in front of forwards, which is crucial sometimes, because you try and win the ball, you've got to win the ball, and if you don't win the ball, you're leaving a great big hole behind you. And if you're playing free at the back, which we do mainly now, it's a disaster waiting to happen. He's done that many times, even when he's in the 6-yard box defending crosses and stuff and free kicks and stuff like that. You see people come across him so many times. It's amazing that he's keen and eager to get in front of people when the ball and he's facing up and the ball's played into a centre forward outside the box. But when it's inside the box, inside the 6-yard area, he doesn't. I don't know. Like I say, I think it's just a lack of concentration and awareness. I don't really think although he's got massive experience and loads of caps, but I just don't think he's ready for the Premier League game. I think it's too fierce for him, and his defending has not been very good for Arsenal, unfortunately. So I think it's been quite fair.
I'm just looking at his Opta now. Opta usually, I mean, if you go to whoscored.com, their Opta ratings, his last few games, 7.77, 7.3, a shocker against Southampton, 5.5, then 7.76, then 7.9, 7.3, 8.5, 7.1. That's not the Opta rating of players, of a player who's having a shocking season, is it? I just go on.
But Danny, the difference is statting well is very different to performing well. Well, you said, look at Man United. They're second in the league, but they're playing some shocking football. Absolutely shocking. And it's on a similar level as that, Mustafi in the Newcastle game plays that wonderful ball up to Aubameyang for the first goal.
That's going
to but he's also completely lost Perez or completely lost Shane Long. He makes exactly the most identical run just across the front of him, and he just doesn't track him. And it's worrying that he's not doing that.
Do you think it might have something to do with the fact that he's never playing with the same partner at centre-back for most of the second half of the season?
I think a man running off you, irrespective of what partner's next to you, makes little to no difference.
That's a terrible tackle. He just fell on his arse and the bloke went, all right then, see you later, and walked past him.
Yeah, it's
not good.
It's really worrying.
Do you guys reckon it can be, because the main thing I think of Mustafi, this is a bit what Geoff was saying, is that he's so eager to, dive in and be first to the ball, even when he's better off just, letting the striker with his back to goal have it and just shepherd him. He seems so keen to try and nip round and get it. Do you think with a different coach or, someone else working with him, that you could get Mustafi to be a good enough centre-back to play for Arsenal every week? Or do you think you've got to sell him and cut your losses?
Well, we've seen our centre-backs do that before. When we had the Mertesacker and Koscielny partnership, Mertesacker was the one that was stepping forward and trying to get the ball early to make sure that he wasn't getting, turned around, and Koscielny was there to sweep up. And I think that's perhaps the problem, that Mustafi's trying to replicate what Per did, but he's just not as mentally astute in the game because obviously he had the pace at the time to be able to recover in situations with bad positioning. But as Per's never had pace, he's always made that decision. 9 times out of 10, he's been correct. Whereas Mustafi, that's a lot lower. That's what I think is worrying. And it's something that has worked, that system, with one of the defenders pushing and trying to win the ball early off the forward, when we had what you could call a solid defensive pairing with Koscielny and Mertesacker. I think that's the last one we've seen recently.
Isn't that something you can teach, though? Because like you were saying, Per hasn't got the pace, so he has to, like we say, all great players, the older you get, you may lose a yard in pace, but you'll gain a yard in reading the game. So Per has obviously got that. Is that something you can pass on to another player? Like, imagine if Mustafi had that kind of vision. He's only 25, and for a centre-back, he's not reached his peak yet. The centre-back's peak is, 30, 31, something like that. So he's still a young man when it comes to being a centre-back. So can you pass something like that on, or is it much like being a Jedi, it's something you're born with?
Oh, I don't know. Simon, what do you reckon to that, or Geoff?
I personally I don't think. I mean, how long's he had here? Almost 2 years, is it now? He's been at Arsenal, and everyone sort of compares him to Koscielny, in Koscielny first game, and said, he was a bit ropey at the start. He didn't really fit in, but after about a year or so, you normally give players about a year's grace, I think. And Mustafi's going to have 2 years, and I just don't think he's cut out for it personally. And I think the fact that he was very nearly sold last summer, or loaned as it was going to be. And the same with Callum Chambers, was almost got rid of and then given a new contract, just shows a bit at the centre-back area. It's a problem area because basically we just had to keep Mustafi because we couldn't get anyone else.
When he joined, didn't we go on a huge run of something like 20 games without losing with him at centre-back? So he obviously slotted in very well initially, but it's what happened afterwards. He did build that partnership with Koscielny. Perhaps, that is the only other defender that suited him well. And, coming from the Spanish league, it's not like there wasn't a system of fluid attack. Well, talking about fluid attacking play.
I'm going to piss Jace off here, but that was, with that run, I think that was when he had Coquelin playing in front of him with the Coquelin-Cazorla axis. So it may be, to be fair to Mustafi, it may be the case that we saw with Lovren, and when he moved to Liverpool, struggled a lot when they don't have those holding players in front of them. And Mustafi doesn't really have that, does he? So
he's a decent player. He's decent on the ball. He can pass and stuff. But he just does that stuff. It's okay. If you're a midfield player, you can do that. You can get away with missing a few once you're trying to dive in front of people. But once you're playing at the back and you do that, you really are dicing. You give other teams great opportunities because of the space you leave behind you, and the concentration level, I think, in the Premier League does have to be a little bit more than the Spanish league, simply because it's a faster game and you have better players technically that can hurt you a lot more. Maybe in Spain he was getting away with that, but it reminds me of the last few matches Tommy Vermaelen played for Arsenal, and then I think it got to that Tottenham game away. I think we got done 2-0 or whatever, and I think 2 of the goals was down to Vermaelen. Again, trying to win the ball in front of attackers, and then you leave a great big hole. That was the tipping point, and I think Wenger has already got to that point, and he did try and move him on during the summer. And I think the only reason Mustafi's been playing this season is because we have had no other real proper centre halves that could come in and do a better job than him. We've had no options, so I think his time is limited at Arsenal.
Jeff, when you're like me, you're old enough to remember that the other managers and many players over the years, when we used to sign a young defender or any defender, you'd see him come in and you go, "Wow, he's going to get to this level. He's going to get better and better." At what time do you remember thinking when a defender comes to Arsenal, then they're not going to get any better? In fact, if anything, they're going to regress as a defender? Because that's definitely happening, isn't it? With every player who comes to the club.
Yeah, it's true. I remember we give a mad money for a guy called Geoff Blockley. I think it was 300 grand from Coventry at the time, or Leicester, or one of those sides, and thinking, he's going to be the be all and end all of a top centre half. Fucking hell, he was shocking, mate. I swear to God, a lot more shocking than Mustafi is, believe me. And we've had a few defenders like that, but it is difficult to find them centre-halves nowadays, and when you do find them, they're costing top money, specifically for that reason. £70 million for Virgil van Dijk seems a lot of money, but I think you have seen a change in, he has stabilised them at the back, Liverpool, and if they go, they've had a great run already in the Champions League, and I honestly do believe they've got a chance in winning that. So if they get to the final, he might have been good money.
Yeah, well, let's try and be on a positive note from the CSK Moscow game, even there wasn't tons of it. Danny Welbeck, Josh, we like to give him criticism. He gets a lot of stick from fans, but that first goal was pretty special, wasn't it?
Is he on mute?
Is he muted?
I am on mute.
It's not the radio show now, Josh. You got to up your skills, your levels.
I know. It's been a while.
Ellis is laughing, didn't you?
I don't care anything about Ellis.
Fuck Ellis.
Exactly. It was a great goal from Welbeck. That turn that he just did on his man out on the wing was superb. And that ball in from El Neni, who just the engine that man has. I know we almost say it every podcast that El Neni's engine is just absolutely world class, but to get to that kind of position and the ball that he played, if that's Mesut Ozil playing it, you're singing his praises for weeks on end. Wonderful turn, and it was exactly what we needed at that time, because I think we were having a problem with Jack Wilshere getting targeted and just wasn't having a good game at all. We'd just taken him off for Callum Chambers, and we just looked a lot better as a team, I think, after those couple of changes that occurred. And yeah, really good, really happy for Danny, because it's a couple of goals he's now got. Is he not now level with Alexis Sanchez for the season? I remember rightly.
What, for goals?
Goals across the whole season, not just at Arsenal, but with Alexis's run at Man United as well.
Yeah, I think Sanchez had 8 with us, and I think he's got 2 in 13 for Man United, and Welbeck has 10 in 36 for us. So yeah, they're both on 10, and as is Ramsey, also on 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great for Danny, because he does get a lot of stick. We saw that in the Southampton game where, if he wants to miss an open goal, he can. But the desire you get from him, you can see why Ferguson liked him at United and played him in those big games. And he can just give you something on the right occasion. And he's just a player that I really enjoy. A great squad player. I wouldn't look to try and get rid of him unless you can find a really solid improvement. But it's a bit like El Neni. If he's happy with the role he's got in the squad, then just let him be and let him tick along at Arsenal, because they're the kind of players that we need when I'm just trying to total up how many games we've played this season. I think we're nearly over the 50 mark at least. And you're going to need players like the Elnenis and the Welbecks to help push you through a season.
What are we going to do now with Welbeck, do you think, Geoff, in terms of the rest of this season? We've obviously got no Mkhitaryan. And in that Europa League run, we're going to have, presumably, Lacazette up top. So we're going to have the choice of either Welbeck out wide or Iwobi out wide. What would you do, Geoff? Would you put Welbeck out wide simply because of his experience and his, not playing with Man United, England?
Yeah, you know what I think. I even think on ability, I'd always play Danny Welbeck out wide rather than Iwobi. I think he gets way too much stick from the Arsenal fans. I mean, Arsenal fans do tend to have 2 or 3 players throughout the season who have an unfortunate spell that they get loads and loads of stick. I think it's very unjust. He's a great worker. He's always up and down. He won't let you down. The only thing is, I mean, let's be honest. If he could finish, he wouldn't have cost us £19 million. It would have been £40 or £50 million because of the work rate he puts in and everything else, and the price of strikers nowadays. It would cost a lot of money. But there's a reason he only cost £19 million because he can't finish. Having said that, right? I mean, he has scored goals for us. You just give us the stats. So. And I think his first goal was brilliant. He more or less created it all by himself with Mohamed Elneny, and he finished it brilliant. And the second goal as well. It's had a part in that. But I would like to go on to Elneny. He had a brilliant game in Russia. And he's another one that gets unfair criticism from Arsenal. You're not going to get too much more from him what he's showing, I don't think, to be perfectly honest with you. He is a player that just he'll keep on moving the ball on. And no matter, even if he is going for a bad spell, that's the strength of a player. He'll always keep looking to receive the ball. He won't hide. He's always there, and I think he's been a breath of fresh air for Arsenal this season. I really do, and especially amongst times when we haven't been good. He's always been there for us. And Welbeck, I'd definitely keep him as a squad player, the same as Elneny.
Definitely. I mean, he was £5 million Elneny, which is, in today's market, is absolutely crazy. And I mean,
ridiculous.
We do sometimes, hammer the club for transfers and signings, but that was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it didn't really seem like anyone else had heard of him when we signed him. For me, I always compare him to Edu. He always just reminds me of that his ability to sort of completely box-to-box midfielder, but he sits in. He's played centre-back when he's asked him. And he seems happy with that role, to be honest, because he signed a new contract. And, if you read the programme or the bits that the Arsenal website put up, obviously it's going to be positive. But all the stuff the players and the staff say is what a good influence he is around the place, how happy he is. And I agree that probably in this Europa League run, he's been one of our best players. What have you made of him, Danny, this season?
Are we still talking about Danny Welbeck or Elneny?
No, Elneny, the Egyptian Busquets.
Elneny's fantastic. But see, the thing is that when a player comes to a club, because coming from, I remember seeing him play for Basel, and didn't they turn over Man United and Man City and teams like that? Or I know they beat Man City this season, but they've produced some decent players from there, especially one currently smacking in the goals at Liverpool. But when a player like that comes, and it's such a giant step up from playing in the Swiss League to playing in the Premier League, that he's only been here at the end of this season. He's been here a year and a half, and slowly he's getting better every game. And occasionally, like the one against Newcastle, you're not going to have a good game. I mean, half the team he isn't used to playing with. The formation wasn't right, but yet he still keeps on trying. And but then you see the game against Moscow. He got man of the match. He got a couple of assists. He looked brilliant. He scores the odd goal. He's got great hair. He's always smiling. His Twitter account is absolutely brilliant as well. He's always saying nice things on there. And I think when we lost and there was a kid crying, he said he tweeted or did a picture of the kid and said, for the rest of the season, I'm going to use this as encouragement to do better, or I'm going to do it for you, or something along those lines. I just love the way, like the others were saying, that he can play in any position, but I don't want him to be a Gramandi or a Remy Gard or one of those players that because they can play in any position, that they never master one position. And so I'd love to see him play more in the centre of midfield with maybe Ramsey, him and Ramsey and Xhaka. That at the moment, I know I love Wilshere, but those three are my perfect midfield with El Neni doing the sweeping up, giving the ball to Xhaka passing it around, and Ramsey running at goal and doing the magical stuff that the Welsh Messi does. Is it Welsh Messi we call him? I can't remember all his wonderful names. But El Neni's brilliant, and he can only get better. But people can't expect him to come in and get 8.5, 9 assists and a goal every game, because it's not going to happen. It wouldn't happen in many teams, let alone in an Arsenal team that's having our worst season in the last 20 odd years. But yeah, I'm so encouragement. Like you were saying, £5 million for that. If you went to a League One team and took their best player, you wouldn't get him for £5 million.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, in terms of money spent in the last sort of 5-6 years by Premier League clubs, I don't think you'll get a better value for money than El Nene. And we'll the last bit on the CSK game, we'll talk about Jack and the other part of the midfield, because Ramsey had a fantastic game. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure you all saw his photo on Instagram with his leg open. But Jack again, it just felt like he was a bit off the pace and a bit struggling. And whether this is his contract talk, I know the guy spoke about it a lot last week, whether this is the fact he hasn't played this many games in a season before and he's a bit fatigued, but it doesn't all seem quite right with Jack, does it, Geoff? And what have you made of him? Certainly since, for me, sort of end of February, he's dropped off a bit.
Yeah, you're right. I just honestly think he's just hit a brick wall with regards to fitness and, the way it's gone for him. I think, I mean, I like Jack, and if he could keep on reproducing the form that he had at the start of the season, then I think we're on for a winner as long as he signs a contract. It was a shocking game from him, maybe the worst game I've ever seen him play. But players go through them games like that. He's just going to rock and roll with it. Hopefully he'll get a bit of rest now and he'll recover, because I do only think he's definitely lost that couple of yards of pace that normally springs him away from players once he goes round them. But we've missed that, especially in Russia. But we just hopefully he'll get through it with a little bit of rest and he'll come back to finish the season.
Do you think he's going to stay, Geoff, or do you think
I don't know. It is worrying, isn't it? It is worrying. I think Arsenal. We don't actually know. Nobody really knows what kind of figures have been. He's been quite. But I'm told that it is like on a pay as you play basis, and I think that's quite fair from Arsenal. You're talking about a player that's missed a hell of a lot of games in the last 5 years. Okay, he's come back. He's played a lot of games this season, but we don't know, do we? If he's going to be able to sustain it. And this is the problem. So if Arsenal said, well, we believe in you. And I think his contract will, if he does play the same amount of games, he'll get more than signing just a new contract on a normal contract. But, again, we'll just have to see what pans out. I'm really not sure whether he'll stay. It is worrying that it's going on because there's obviously been talks and nothing seems to be happening at the moment. Is he just going to see it out and get a bigger contract at another club? To be honest with you, the money he's got already, the money he's earned out of the game from breaking the first team such a young age up until now, I don't think he's ever going to need any more money that for the rest of his life. If he's clever enough. But if it is just about money, maybe he'll move on. I don't know. I hope not, but we'll see.
No, the latest one today is Wolves apparently interested in him, but
well, this is it. But if he does go, I think he will have to drop down a level, because I'm not sure that I don't think the Chelsea, Man City, Man United, I'm not sure that they're going to be in for Jack Wilshere. No.
What about you, Josh? What do you think on Jack? Just finish off on this little topic. Do you see him staying? Do you see him going? Do you want him to stay? Do you want him to go?
I would say start with the Wolves rumour. That's a proper dark horse of a move, because you got the Benicophobe link there as well. Obviously, they're really good friends from Hareland days as well. But overall, with Jack Wilshere, it is difficult. We have seen him have good games, but, we've just been talking about a player in Mustafi and saying, oh yeah, when he was about a season or two ago, he was playing wonderful football. Well, we now want Mustafi out because he's not performing, and it's the same for Jack. He hasn't really done it in a game for us in a while. We gave him a perfect centre stage in the Europa League group stages, where even the boys in the youth ranks came through and at least turned up and played decent games, the likes of Nelson and Willock, and we've seen them translate that not particularly well into Premier League form for their respective debuts that they've had in the last couple of weeks. So personally, I don't really mind. I would be more on the side of, if he signed a deal and we overpromised so much to him and he just started becoming a nuisance, then I'd rather not have that conversation. And we've got the vast wealth of scouting knowledge. We've brought in Sven Mislintat, who's already shown that he's got a keen eye for talent across his previous role at Borussia Dortmund, and as well as bringing in the Greek centre-back that Wenger was like, oh, I've never seen him play and not really sure what it would be like, probably send him out on loan, and then completely backtracks after a couple of training sessions and says, well, actually, he's good enough. That I'm happy that our team can go and find another player, a bit like an Elneny, who is consistent. He'll be there, and we'll get them for a price that is a lot less than the wages that Jack will be asking for. And if we can improve as a squad, I think that's a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of the club, it's refreshing from my point of view that certainly when it comes to a player contract, and we've seen it before in the past, we had it with Diaby, we've had it with other players where we've almost given them a contract out of loyalty when it's not necessarily been the right thing for the club and their injury status and form, etc. For me, it's refreshing to see the club say, look, this is the offer. This is what we're willing to pay. Yes, it's less than you'd get originally, but if you play more, you'll make more money. And it's refreshing for me that the club has said, no, this is best for the club. We're doing this. You take the money or you leave it. And we're not being held to ransom by players, which is a nice change, I think.
I said devil's advocate on Diaby as well. Remember when he did come back from his injuries? He always performed, always. Although he was only for 3 games and he was out again. At least when Diaby came back, he always showed the quality that we knew he had. And I think that was the most frustrating thing we had with Diaby, is you knew we had a world-class player on our hands, but it was tragically cut short, his career, by an innocuous challenge.
Yeah. Don't you think that most of Jack's games this season where he's been really good and we've been going, oh, Jack's back, have been in the Europa League against really substandard teams. But when it's come to the Premier League, he's not been as good. And if you take away our other best players and then people are looking at him to, come on, Jack, you need to make the difference here. He's not been able to do it.
The one other game, I think, was it the Chelsea League Cup game?
Where he scored.
They scored. But I agree with you. Other than that, he's not been...
sad.
And he's not... And if I was picking our top 5, 6, maybe even 7 players, I wouldn't have him in that.
I think most feel like that.
Yeah. But a final note on Europa League. We've obviously had the draw. Atletico Madrid in the semi-finals, Danny.
Yeah.
Everyone's nightmare draw, and we had Dom in the WhatsApp group saying, why is everyone moaning about the fact that we're playing at home first and away second? What have you made of it all? Because for me, I think it might be a positive playing at home first, just given the fact that I think if we'd gone away to Atletico first, I could have easily seen us go there and lose, 3-1, 4-1 and be out of the tie. Whereas at home, I've got some hope that we can take something to Spain to defend. What have you made of the draw, Danny, and the fact that we're at home first?
Yeah, I really like it because I hate losing finals. I remember saying last season I'd rather lose in the FA Cup semi-final than lose to Chelsea in the final, and that just shows how little I know about football, because we went there and we had probably one of Wenger's top 3 performances in his entire Arsenal career in that FA Cup final, and we could pull it off again. We seem to be resting the right players, but Atletico are my Spanish team, and I've watched them quite a few times this season and over the years, and they're a very, very boring team to win. I think recently, most of the time they like to go 1-0 up and then shut up shop, much like George Graham did back in the day. And I remember recently they did that. They went 1-0, shut up shop, and then the other team come and attacked them and beat them 2 or 3-1 or something like that, because once they'd got into the weird defending mode, they weren't able to come out of it. And when you think they got the likes of Diego Costa, Anton Griezmann, and to a lesser extent Fernando Torres, and you got one of the best goalkeepers in the world there outside of the Premier League, Oblak. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, and at the moment they're 4 points ahead of Real Madrid in La Liga. But I think I'd like to play them first. I think I agree with Dom, because if you play them first, then you've got you can set up the second game. But if you play the away game first, then you kind of don't expect to go there and beat them. So if you maybe take that as if we can get a draw in the away game, then you get the first part out of the way first of beating them or scoring goals. Because I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up 0-0 at their place, or they maybe get a 1-0. But I can see that. I'm just looking at the Liga and their away form. They have played in 16, won 9, drawn 4, lost 3, with a goal difference of plus 15. But when you compare that to their home form, it's 12-4. They haven't lost any. They've only conceded 4. Steve was tweeting about this in the week. They've only conceded 4 La Liga games in 16 home games. So that just shows that their last 6 home games they've won. I think Steve sent me a tweet saying they've not conceded a goal in their last 8 home league games. So that is absolutely formidable. So you know what you're going to get there. We're not going to go there and score goals. So that's why I'm happy, like Dom is, to get that second. I think the home leg, we can beat them maybe 3-1 or 2-0. And the away leg, maybe lose 1-0. But that's what I'm crossing my fingers for. But it's going to be, if we can beat those, then that'll be an achievement of the season for us. Because this is this is more important than the League Cup final for me.
Geoff, what have you made of the draw? And Atletico.
Everyone knew that it was going to be Atleti to come out of the draw playing Arsenal. I was disappointed. I'd rather play them over one game. But having said that, I prefer the home leg to be first. I'm not sure Arsenal are capable of doing it, although they have done a couple of times this season. I think the 2 Chelsea games we was both very, very cautious going forward in those occasions. We've done it at Man City last year or the year before that. Whether they can be very cautious and defensive minded when they need to be in the first leg, because I would quite like of course I'd like to win, but worst comes to the worst, we mustn't let Madrid score, because that away goal is so important in these European ties, as you well know. And you know what? And if we did get a 0-0 at our gaff, it might force Atleti to be a little bit more offensive minded in the second leg. And if they do come out, I think we can score out of Madrid. I think we're obviously we're very good offensively, but just rubbish defending. If we can concentrate on defending in the first leg, it would set us up for really having a really good go at it in the second leg. So hopefully we can do that.
And what about Costa, Josh? What are we going to do about Diego Costa? I know there's talk that he might be struggling with injuries, but he's been an absolute thorn for us, like Drogba was when he's at Chelsea. And I think the last time we kept Costa quiet, we wheeled out Per Mertesacker, and we're obviously not going to do that again.
No, we could always.
How are we going to stop Costa? How are we going?
It's with Rob Holding. That's how we're going to do it.
Big Bob, none shall
Big Rob
pass.
Holding. He doesn't really care about. We saw that in the FA Cup final where he was, facing up to Diego Costa and having none of his antics. We've had centre backs fall at the wayside from him. I'm thinking particularly Gabriel in that fateful Chelsea game where he got sent off. But I don't think he's the most worrying player for him. I think the fact that Atletico can stifle a midfield the way they can, with the likes of Koke and Saul in the midfield, that's what I'd be most worried about, is the fact that they could quite easily suffocate us at source. And that's part of where the loss of Mkhitaryan, who might be back for the second leg, I think.
It's a bit close. It's meant to be the middle to the end of May. But didn't Dom say in one of the WhatsApp groups that they said he's going to be 5 weeks, and Dom said more like 3? I think. Yeah,
I've seen one that says 2 weeks. I've seen various different time scales given to it. So he's one of those players that hopefully he's back. He's got that kind of pedigree and that consistency compared to someone who's more flash in the pan, like an Iwobi, who, it could work. I remember when we played Barcelona, that was his Champions League debut, was at the Nou Camp for Alex Iwobi. So I think that we've got the right players to certainly hurt Atletico, but it's a complete toss in the air of whether or not we're actually going to be able to do it. We're so Jekyll and Hyde at the moment that I
They're
can't.
also they're also very experienced in this tournament, and they won it 3 times out of 5 or 2 out of 5, something like that. The last 5 seasons, I'm not sure.
And they're properly going for it as well. I think because certainly judging by looking at their league form and the Europa League, they've basically gone all out that they want to win this. So.
Yeah, it's one of the easier ways to get into the Champions League, especially with Valencia's season as well, and Real Madrid slowly clawing themselves back up the table. That I think it is a worry that they are going to go all out for this, but to win the best, you got to play the best. But I think it has been a while, as Danny's put, that since Atletico have won it. I think it was 3 seasons ago. But Sevilla.
They won it in a couple, didn't they? When they had Falcao there, they won it. And
they won it in 2010. They beat Fulham, and 2012 they beat Atletico Bilbao. But it was Sevilla that won it 3 times in a row. They've got kind of dominance. It's just looking at this for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons. Only once has it not been a Spanish or an English team that won it.
Jesus. And I thought as well with Atletico, they might not have been as good a force at home because they obviously left the Calderon last summer, so in the new stadium this season. And any Arsenal fans who are going to that away game, it's supposed to be an absolutely amazing stadium. But I thought they might not have been as a difficult place to go. But judging by the home form, you said, Dan, they're still very, very good at home.
Absolutely immense, and it is worrying because it's almost nailed on that we're going to get nothing out of the away leg. But it's just how much of nothing we're going to get, whether it's a 1-0 nothing, whether it's a 3-0 nothing. But they're not massively high scorers. Like I say, in the Spanish feeder league, they've scored. They're averaging about 1.8 goals per game at home.
Yeah, the only thing I would
some right dross there.
I would, as a caveat to Atletico's defensive record, is they play a very unique style for La Liga, which isn't a unique style that we've come up against in the Premier League. Teams like I was going to go with a Burnley.
Yeah.
But it's a team like that, very defensively organised, will look to stifle our midfield and limit our chances and opportunities and then hit us on the counter. And we play teams like that week in, week out. We saw at the weekend a very defensively astute team built by a manager who is very, very good tactically. We did get punished in Newcastle, but at least we do come up against it constantly.
Just looking, their last 10 home games in all competitions, they've not conceded a single goal. But on the positive note, they did lose to Sevilla, which is isn't that where Coquelin went?
Valencia he went.
Oh, let's get the stripy yellow and orange ones mixed up. Schoolboy error.
I think it's a 50-50 game, though. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't. It's not a walkover.
Both legs?
Yeah, why not? I think we could. We can.
Did you see us play?
No, but I would imagine with. It's very difficult. You're going into a tie like the previous one with you're 3 goals ahead. You can't help think that you got one eye on the next round because you think you're through. I think it's not going to be like that. It's definitely not going to be like that going into the second leg of this match. But I think it's a really open tie, and I don't think anybody can call it. It's going to be really, really tight. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals. That's for sure.
Don't concede at home is going to be the key for me. I think don't concede at home. Don't give them the away goal. And to be fair, I know the atmosphere at the Emirates hasn't been great this season, but if there's one night where
it'll be electric, mate.
It will be rocking, and it has been rocking in years gone by. When we've had big European games, I think of that Barcelona one with Arshavin and games like that.
Yeah,
I think it will be a great atmosphere on that week.
And they're going to be looking at the fact that we smashed Milan 3-1 at home. We murdered CSKA Moscow at home 4-1. So yeah, it's just the away legs.
I would accept us boring the pants off of everybody and playing out a 0-0 draw at home and having a right go at them in the second leg because we've got a chance.
I think if we come out early like we did against Moscow and get all the goals as quick as possible and just shock them.
I'm not sure we can defend well enough against a team like Atleti like that. Honestly, they've got a decent pace up front, and they've got quality players that can really hurt you.
We weren't great at defending against Moscow in that first leg. A better team would have.
Oh God,
had a couple.
They had loads of shots, and I think it all depends on how. I mean, he's obviously resting our best players, isn't he? Ozil, I don't think you're going to see much of Ozil in the league this season. Lacazette is only playing in the league so he can get his match fitness as well as his physical fitness. and Mkhitaryan. That's the other part of that of the part of the team that is important for us, because with those three on form, we're brilliant.
You got Granit Xhaka as well. Look how we were in that CSKA away leg without Granit Xhaka.
He suits Europe, doesn't he?
He does.
He's so much more. Just that little bit of time. I don't know if Geoff said it before. Well, Geoff certainly said it about Ozil in the past, but I see it so much with Xhaka that you can almost imagine Xhaka playing in Italy or something like that. When he has so much time on the ball, he looks a completely different player. And in the Europa League, he's been fantastic.
Definitely has.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on now to a bit of Newcastle chat. On Sunday, not another good away performance, to put it politely. Danny, I don't know if you were up for this one, if you were awake for it, whether you watched it back.
I was kind of awake. I was listening to it on the radio.
It might have put you to sleep anyway, but do you want to take us through it and what you made of it?
Well, I only saw the highlights, but I listened to it on the radio, and I thought that it was just showed that we're tired, because I tweeted that we've covered 6,500 miles from Heathrow to Russia, Russia to Heathrow, Heathrow back up to Newcastle, and that's like 6,000 miles. And if you look from probably when did they fly out to Russia? Would it have been Thursday morning? I think it probably would have been.
No, they flew out Wednesday day.
Yeah,
and then they train in England, always Arsenal, the day before, and then they fly out and they do their press conference the night before. So they flew out Wednesday day, did the press conference Wednesday night, stayed Thursday, I think, then flew back. I think they might have flown back straight back after the game Thursday night.
So they just slept on the way home. It's only, I think, a 4-hour flight.
Back Friday, maybe a recovery session on Saturday morning, then coach up to Newcastle or fly up to Newcastle. Stay there Saturday night and play Sunday. So, I mean, it's like you say, it's pretty minimal preparation. I mean, tactically, you can't prepare for that.
No.
You wouldn't have done anything.
It's like, listen, actually, this is what I put. Just watching Match of the Day too. Why did we lose? Newcastle good at home. I said on the last pod that Newcastle have been very, very good at home at the moment. They've got a manager they really like. They've got loads of players that are really up for it, and he's managed to control the ball. Lunatic. Our away form, that's another reason. Jet lagged. Well, I don't know if you get jet lag while moving around Europe. Worn out. I think that's definitely a reason. The players on the bench, players not on the bench. Players are on the beach now. I think. Partly, you see the first half, I think we were really, really good. That and the way that Mustafi came down and gave the ball to Aubameyang passed it across to Lacazette. I remember seeing that. And if I'd been watching the game, I'd have thought, oh, here we go, sit back, here we go, 3-4-0, we're going to absolutely do them. But it's like they were completely out of steam. Wenger didn't seem to have any ideas on what to do. The mileage they covered was 3,854 miles in 4 days. I mean, most people, Geoff, you're a jet setter. After you've been halfway around the world and back, you don't really want to go and run around for 90 minutes, do you?
Mate, honestly, I'm spark out the next day. I don't know how they do it. I find it really, really difficult. Mate, the traffic and stuff getting to Heathrow or Gatwick's bad enough for me. But no, it must be difficult. There's no doubt about it. It must be very difficult.
Yeah, so it's just, I think it's a combination of so many facts. Iwobi not having another good game. Welbeck, I mean, when you're thinking of the likes of Welbeck and Eddie Nikita coming on, they're not really going to be able to do much, are they? And also, I blamed it on the blue kit. Fuck that blue kit, I ended it with, because that blue kit is an abomination. They should just, at half-time, they should have got all the kits and burnt them, much like the Man United-Southampton game. Changed kits at half-time because they're just that much bad luck. Well, actually, we were winning at half-time, weren't we? Anyway, or at the end of the game, burn them. But I expect nothing from the league. I was happy that a few players came in, that young Willock made his debut, and I wasn't happy that Aubameyang has played out wide. If I was looking at that team and the players available, I'd like to have us. If you're seeing Arsenal, what's the two biggest threats at the club at the moment? It's going to be Lacazette and Aubameyang, isn't it? Now, Aubameyang's playing out wide, and he's got a lot of space, and he's not really doing much with it because that's not really his job. I know he got the cross in, and Lacazette scored from it. But as an opposition team, I would think, fuck me, if they're playing Lacazette and Aubameyang up front, we're going to need 4 central defenders to cover them all. And if you play Iwobi in behind them, then Iwobi's going to be was Iwobi playing out on the wide right kind of position? Because That's not his best position. We saw in the last game against Southampton, you play him in the kind of Bergkamp role behind a couple of strikers, you're going to turn everyone inside out. I just think it was just Wenger not playing the right players in the right positions. And if he wants to next season play Lacazette and Aubameyang at the same time, you can't play one of them out wide. I'm not even sure you can play one behind the other in like an Henry Bergkamp kind of situation. You need to play them in like an Henry Wright, Ian Wright situation where they're both playing off of each other, because Aubameyang is surprisingly tall. I thought they were both about 5'10". They're not, are they? Aubameyang's got to be at least 6 foot something.
He's quite tall. He is quite tall. He's very. If you ever see him in the flesh,
I haven't.
He's incredibly like slight. I mean, he's almost like an 800-meter runner. He's so slight, and you can see why he's so fast.
But what worries me that if next season he thinks we're going to get away with playing one of those out wide, that is not going to happen. You either play one on their own or you play them both up front, and playing them both up front is going to scare the life out of everybody. And it's annoying the fact that he dropped Bellerin for Chambers play there. We would like to see Maitland-Niles play there, but he's only just come back from injury. But why play Monreal? Monreal played 90 minutes midweek. Kolasinac sat on the bench doing nothing. The whole thing is just a mess, and it's like moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic. Just don't bother. Just play all the youth kids. Just let all the youth kids get all the experience, and that's what I want to see. But it's just mystifying what's going on, and I genuinely don't care. I mean, I probably won't even watch any more Premier League games. Have we got any on telly this season? Probably not.
We will be again because we're playing Thursdays. We'll be
every
the
Sunday. Fuck's sake!
I think we've got West Ham next week. So it's you're gonna have to keep watching, Danny. Unfortunately, and you're also on here talking about it every fucking week, so you definitely have to keep watching.
Well, I was hoping you'd just go past me.
but on Aubameyang and Lacazette, guys, we'll come to you, Geoff. But Danny, obviously, they're making a strong case that he wants them to play together as a two. I'm struggling to think the last time Wenger did that. I'm thinking back to the Eduardo Adebayor days. They obviously combined beautifully for that goal. But what would you do with them, Geoff? Would you play them as a pair? Would you happy with Aubameyang out wide? Do you want Lacazette through the middle? What would you do, Geoff?
No, I just don't think that our game at the moment is playing a two up top, isn't it? I do prefer Lacazette straight down the middle. And I would play Aubameyang on the left-hand side because they could. I mean, he's going to get chances. He'll get in the box enough, Aubameyang. But I think he's got a little bit more pace. He's got a little bit wherewithal going up and down that left or right-hand side, either or. But again, he's right. I mean, how do you fit them both in the team? Because you think the money that we spent on that type of player, you have really got to try and fit him in somewhere. But at the same time, you mustn't really compromise on the style of play that you want. Different if you're 1-0 down or you're 2-2 with 20 minutes to go, then you can maybe go with a two up top. But I think there's plenty of games that they'll get anyway. So I wouldn't really worry too much about it.
Yeah, Josh, what would you do in that situation? Are you happy with Aubameyang out left? Because Wenger, when he gets put to it in press conferences, he seems to chime on about how when Lewandowski was still at Dortmund, Aubameyang played out wide. He played out wide for Saint Etienne. But I'm looking through the stats on Wikipedia or Soccerbase, whatever. And whenever Aubameyang's been at his best, and it's probably why we bought him, is when Dortmund played him through the middle and he scored all those goals. So has Wenger got a case here in saying that, Aubameyang can play out wide because he did it with Lewandowski, or does he need to play through the middle?
Yeah, I mean, he can, but why should we? Why should we compromise the position of a player from that respect when we've got other people that can play in that position? I thought against Newcastle, which, to be fair, absolutely, I was always flabbergasted from it because we were so narrow in that game, and all of Newcastle's offensive play comes down the wings. I think you've got Yedlin down the right with Richie, who, even when he was at Bournemouth in the Premier League 2 seasons ago and down in the Championship as well, he was just incredible on the wing. He's got really good delivery. So why we had, ended up putting him up against, you got Monreal there when you could have had someone like Kolasinac, as you say, who is fresh compared to that. And then on that side, you've got Aubameyang, who's not tracking back fundamentally. He's a striker. You'd be better off playing a more defensively astute player there to stop that problem. And then you've got Kennedy and Dummett on the other side. Again, Kennedy wants to push forward. We saw right near the end as well, he was still breaking from there, and our fullbacks were just completely overloaded. And then combine that with Perez and Gale, who, they're not going to win the ball in the air all the time, but their movement is more than enough to cause us problems. And it did all game. And even when they brought on the two strikers for them to help lump it up to them, Hosselu and Slimani, they could change it around and really stop us. And I think there were a couple of problems with the game. I think Willock in general looked a little too lightweight for the Premier League at the moment, but I think all of the boys that have come through the academy and played in Europa League earlier in the season have all come to the Premier League, or even the Nottingham Forest game in the FA Cup, and looked a little bit too light for English football right now. And the fact that, as we've said, that Europe gives you a bit more space to operate in, a bit more time on the ball, was beneficial for them. But I thought in general, it just seemed like naivety from whoever was tactically setting us up. I don't want to bash Wenger too much, but, sometimes you've got to do it. And tactically, he just got completely outplayed by Rafa Benitez, because we just didn't address the fact that they're really strong down the wings and down the flanks. And we just turn up with this ultra narrow formation and get completely overrun.
Yeah, what do we think's the cause of the away form, guys? Because it's been, the butt of all jokes on Twitter over the past few days that Arsenal were the only team in England's, I think it's top 7 leagues, who haven't got a point away from home in 2018. That's 5 defeats on the spin away from home. I look at it, and the Emirates isn't exactly the most sort of raucous home stadium. It's been missing a lot of fans, for the past 2 months, and yet we go away from home and we're absolutely terrible. What do you think the cause of it is, Dan? Do you think it's a tactical problem from Wenger? Is it the players just too used to playing at home and finding it too easy there? Why are we so shit away from home, Dan, is the question, really?
We had this problem when we first moved to the Emirates. We were terrible at the Emirates, and everyone was shouting, shoot, shoot all the time. And then we went through a phase a few seasons ago where we were also terrible at home, and we were the best away team. And there was always that thing that if we could just have the same away as we did at home. I can't think of any logical explanation as to why we're so awful when it comes to the away games. I think it may have to do recently with the number of European games that we're playing, which means the gap between the Thursday and the Sunday is so short. But you look at recently, before the Newcastle game, I'd say that comes down to the fact that Newcastle are a resurgent team. I mean, they've got a really good manager. All the players are playing for him. Perez, like Steve said, you watch out for Perez, and Perez was their best player on the day. The Moscow game, well, it's never easy to go away to Moscow. It's a long way to go. But then before that, we won 6 games in a row. And it's easy just to forget stuff like that. But of those 6 games in a row that we won, we had 5 consecutive home games and we won them all. And then after that, before that, we lost 4 in a row, of which 3 of those were at home. And you think, well, how could you just go and win 5 at home? And then before that, you lose 3 at home. Well, 3-0. Oh, no, not 3 at home, is it? Because one of them is a League Cup final, 2 at home. So many games. It's just... I really have no idea why we're doing it. Apart from the only thing is teams go, we're playing against Arsenal, we're playing at the Emirates, where I may never get to play here again. Like some of the Östersunds people, they're never going to get to play against Arsenal again, and then they will naturally raise their game for it. And maybe we just take our, I don't like to say this, the phrase, we take our foot off the pedal at home a little bit. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. How could it be so different from home and away? I've got no idea. It shouldn't. It should be. We've shown that we're so good at home and so bad away. But then we go and win away at Milan. So this is why my brain is saying to me, you're not making any sense of what you're saying, because you went to Milan, which everyone went, oh, that's a nailed-on loss. We beat them 2-0. How could we do that? It's madness.
I wonder whether away from home, whether when we travel to these places now, sort of 4 or 5 years ago, when you guys used to do this podcast and I wasn't even on here, you'd moan about how teams would sit up shop and they'd frustrate. And Newcastle did that to a degree on Sunday. but I feel that a lot of teams have lost their respect for Arsenal in the sense that when Arsenal come to play them at their ground, I think Brighton was a good example of it, where they think Arsenal are here for the taking now. And that's, for me, has happened mainly this season. And I don't think Wenger has adapted to that teams now see Arsenal as an opportunity when they get Arsenal at home. So Arsenal go to the Amex, they go to Vicarage Road or wherever, they think, oh, Arsenal here for the taking. I think that has maybe gone. What do you think, Geoff? Do you think that's a part of it, that teams have lost a bit of respect for Arsenal, a little bit of that awe, and they think, if we get them at our place, we can have a go at them. They're not going to sit up shop anymore.
Well, yeah, I do, but I think they just know that we're going to give them opportunities. They just say, well, okay, listen, we haven't really got to do anything. Just let them have the ball. They'll give it to us, and as long as we get it forward quick enough, we'll hurt them. And that's exactly what's happened every time we've had these defeats and stupid results. I mean, but it boils down to defending. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. And and I'm talking about the back five and the two in front or one in front or whatever. We just need to be able to defend better. Even from the front, we need to defend better. And until we rectify that problem, we are going to keep on doing the same thing year in, year out. And we've had this now for 2 or 3 seasons, maybe even more, where we said, we're shocking defensively. But we've had good runs in the past where we've had enough goals in us to get us out of trouble. Unfortunately, this season it just hasn't happened going forward, like to get us out of trouble, and we've suffered badly. And that away run, I honestly can't remember an Arsenal team being so bad away from home. And I'll go back a few years, mate. Believe me.
I think Arsblog said it was 1984 or 85. We lost 5 consecutive away games.
Yeah, shocking.
Have you seen our next run as well of away games?
Man United and Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, then it's Leicester City and Huddersfield. Bearing in mind we've already lost to the 2 other promoted teams from the Championship this season.
Huddersfield are staying where they are on their home form.
Huddersfield are absolutely incredible at home. It's
and that'll be their last game, isn't it? As well?
Exactly. So irrespective of if they're in the division or not, they'll be wanting to go all out for that game. I really honestly can't see us getting another point away from home this season.
But you know what's worrying though, because people blame Wenger all the time, which is fair enough. People got their opinions, that's no problem. But you know what? The players that we have on the pitch for those games against those type of teams, they should be good enough to beat those teams. And there's a fundamental problem there somewhere with their mindset, their attitude. There's something wrong there because they keep on making the same mistakes every single week against these poor sides. When I say poor, I don't think there's a really poor team in the Premier League. I think they're all difficult games. We've seen that. You can get beat everywhere. But you just got to go there with the right mindset. And sometimes we don't. You can just see it on the pitch. They're just they're half asleep, and we've got to change that somehow.
Then we've got Burnley at home, and although we are very good at home, Burnley are going to be coming there and they're going to be up for it. And they're not necessarily a goal-scoring game, but even if they get a 0-0 there, that could be the point they need to finish above us and finish 6th in the league, because we'll have had a real horrid time before that. And this is a chance where the young players like Willock and Nelson are going to come through, and Eddie are going to come through and make their chance.
One thing I will say about Burnley is they are one of the only teams we've beaten away from home this season. So perhaps that's something good to see from it. If you go through the list of people we've beaten in the league, it's Everton, Burnley, and Palace, and none of those were in 2018.
Wow.
But we've drawn with West Brom 1-0 on New Year's Eve, who were arguably the worst team in the division we've ever seen. Drawing away to West Ham. Chelsea 0-0, to be honest, that's not a bad result when you look at it. I think we would have all expected to, against Chelsea, that's a big game for us. And, it started at the beginning of the season, losing to Stoke and Liverpool. But
we need a good we need a good finish, because that's all we've noticed. Burnley are incredibly close to us. And I don't know if you saw today, but there was the tweet doing the rounds that basically if we don't win the Europa League, if Southampton don't win the FA Cup and we slip into 7th, we've got to be in the Europa League, and we've got to start it. 26th of April will be our first game in the qualifiers, which is
April or August.
So 26th of July will be our first game. Sorry, yeah. So we're starting the season, incredibly early.
I'm just looking here. Our last 4 Premier League away wins: one in December, one in November, one in October, and the one before that was May.
It's just weird because the last few seasons we've had one of the best away records as well.
Yeah. I haven't got stats for that, but yeah, we were. And at one point here, I'm looking in the beginning of 16-17, we won 4 out of 5 away games. We beat Watford, Hull, Burnley, Sunderland, drew Man United, beat West Ham.
Yeah.
And then, just looking here, our away form in that season: win, draw, win, 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 draw, 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 win, draw. What's that? That's about 12 games where we didn't lose one away game. We won most of them. If anybody has an explanation, feel free to tweet us at the AFC podcast and let us know, because I think we're all stumped.
We'll have a final bit on the Newcastle game before a few questions. An area that a few people were tweeting about today and a couple yesterday is just what's happened to Kolasinac, who was obviously signed in the summer. Bundesliga team of the season last year. Those first 4 or 5 weeks, everyone was going nuts for him. Community Shield, he was fantastic. And as we pointed out here, Josh, you were saying, Monreal was playing left back after, playing in Russia, and Kolasinac can't get in the team. I mean, what do you think's happened to him, Josh? Is this a case of Wenger suddenly realising he hasn't signed the player he thought? Kolasinac struggling to adapt, not fitting the system tactically? I mean, what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, he got into the Bundesliga team of the season as a left wing back predominantly. I think since we've moved away from that system of 3 at the back, we've seen him just kind of regress out of the team. I don't think he's got a quick enough turn. I don't think he's agile enough to play properly left back in the Premier League unless he gets more tactically astute. It's a bit like the problem with Mustafi as well, that he gets caught too high up the pitch and can't recover quick enough. Because I think physically, he's definitely got the build for the Premier League. The guy is absolutely massive, but he just seems a little bit slow. And with the way that we've been setting up with our fullbacks for almost the entire Wenger era, that I think that's he doesn't fit that mould at all. When you think all the way back to like the Ashley Cole, bottom up the wing, you've got Kieran Gibbs, who we got rid of. Unfortunately, Andre Santos also played left back for us. But, they were always very, very attacking, but were at least agile enough to try and get back. And that's where we've seen like Maitland-Niles come in and take that position from him because of the fact that he can get back. But it is worrying about how he's not getting into this team, even just rotation. With some of the league games we've got, where we should be resting players or rotating them out, and the fact he's still not getting a look in, it's just really concerning, because he didn't play in the CSKA Moscow, did he? Moscow game, didn't even come on.
No, and that's the thing for me, is that as much as we're disappointed to lose to Newcastle, it is really a dead rubber, the league. And the fact that Wenger, can't even pick him for that, and he's gone with Monreal, who's playing in Russia on the Thursday night, for me speaks volumes. What do you make of it, Geoff, and where Kolasinac is now and where he's going to be going forward? Because, as we say, he can't really get in the second team, and he lost his place to Maitland-Niles as well a few months back.
Yeah, there's obviously some concern there. I'm not sure whether there might be an injury problem or something like that that's keeping him out, because I quite like him. I do think he's physically, you can see it. He's definitely got it for the Premier League. I don't think he's slow. I think he gets up and down very, very well. I think he's good on the ball, and I'm quite surprised that he has really dropped down to second or third choice. Maybe it is the style that we play. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. I think it's a strange one, but Wenger's done that a few times over the years, hasn't he? He's just guided players out when you think they're doing okay, and they don't seem to be involved any longer. I mean, I just hope he can find a bit of form and get some games where he can find some form and come back for us, because I think he was brilliant at the start of the season. He was a great positive, wasn't he?
Mm. And from a purely cynical and business point of view, I mean, we've obviously got him for free, so we're going to make profit on him. And whether the club thought he's worth a punt to get him for free, I know he's on big wages, but the fact is they'll still get a bit of money back from him, won't they? So it's not a terrible bit of business from that sense.
No, you got, it was obviously a punt, wasn't it? We did need a little bit of cover on that left-hand side. He got into the Bundesliga team of the year. So you think to yourself, well, let's have a go, see what he's like. But it is different. It's a different football league. And do they adapt to the Premier League? You can only tell once you put them on the spot and you're trying them. Maybe Wenger don't fancy him. I'm not quite sure. But I do. I think he's a good player. I like him. I really do like him.
Dan, you can have the final say on this. What's your take on the whole situation?
I really like him. And you take him in, you know me, I like to read my stats out. He's played the 10th most number of minutes this season. He's only half an hour behind Lacazette. He's been in the match day squad of 18. That's right, 43 times. He's played 32 games in all competitions, 4 goals, 4 assists. He's only 24. I don't think to bring him in and play him all the time, we'd have to drop Nacho. Now, Nacho's had a really good season for him. Nacho's now 32. And Kolasinac is 24, so that's 8 years difference. You can't just come in and chuck Monreal out. I think Wenger is doing the right thing in, if we are going to play, he can play left back, or like you were saying, when he come from Germany, he was a left wing back, which when we play 3 at the back, that's where he will be used most. And I think with the state of some of our defending, 3 at the back, most of our central defenders, I think one of you said, do look more comfortable playing 3 at the back because you've got 2 other centre backs there for you. So maybe the future is going to be, because Bellerin is a really good right wing back, and maybe that is the future. A lot of teams are still doing it, but I really like the player. I like him. I mean, one of the best parts of this season for me so far is when Onana got in a little bit of trouble in, I think it was the Moscow game. The 2 players who ran up to, it was when Jack pulled the bloke down. Maybe was it against Southampton? He ripped his shirt off, and 2 of the players came running up to sort it all out, and that was Kolasinac and Xhaka. And when you see those 2 behemoths, those 2 look like a WWF tag team wrestling, a wrestling team. When those 2 come running up, I just think they're really good. And people forget how young they are. Xhaka's only 25, and Kolasinac is only 24. They've got plenty of time in them. I just hope they don't leave, because the right manager could make those into brilliant players. And we've seen that Xhaka got a load of grief at the beginning of the season, and now he's played our 2nd most number of minutes behind Bellerin. Just give them time. They have to be eased in. Xhaka was in and out of the team all last season, and it says Kolasinac's first season. I think he's got a really bright future no matter where he goes. I just hope it's with us.
Yeah, him and Xhaka remind me of the sort of Bosnian Mitchell brothers. That's how I always see them. Slightly better looking with better hair, but that's the enforcers.
Exactly.
Right, we'll have some questions to finish off, Dan, if the lovely listeners have given us some.
They certainly have. Right, the first one is one of you's typed something. 7-2 on aggregate, Geoff. Is it a good game?
Yeah, done well, the boys. Could have been a lot more, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Look at good players. I don't know who the number 4 is for Arsenal, but he does not remind me of Cesc Fabregas.
Ooh,
I don't know who it is. Maybe you could look up, or one of the boys could look up. I don't know who it is.
I'll leave that to Josh. Talking of Fabregas, and while I have you, Noir Confidential says when Fabregas left, I've got tooth missing. When Fabregas left Arsenal, he said that we're going to be okay because we have Ramsey. Also, over the years, many people have compared Aaron to Fabregas. Ignoring the injuries, do you think his output has proved them right, Geoff?
No, I don't. Honestly, I think I rate Cesc so highly. Honestly, one of the best fours one of the best midfield players that we've ever graced. I think he was a top player, and it was such a shame that he left Arsenal. We should have stayed at Arsenal, because he would have definitely been an Arsenal legend. That's as much as I like Rambo, I just don't think he's hit the height that we really expected him to get to. I mean, he's still got a bit of time left, I know, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I wouldn't put him in the same category as Cesc Fabregas. No doubt he scored more goals, etc. But it's obviously only my opinion on the actual game itself.
I'll give you two this one as well, Simon. Would you? How would you rate Fabregas compared to Ramsey, or would you even say they're the same positional player?
I think they're different. I think Ramsey is underrated for what he's done, and certainly, a few seasons ago when we had those FA Cup runs, he was fantastic and delivering in finals as well. And for Ramsey, the fact that he came back from that horrific leg break and the criticism he got after that when he was shunted out wide from every now and then, for me, makes him, certainly one of the great players Arsenal have had over in the last 8-9 years. But for Fabregas, I put him above Ramsey because in that team, at that time, he was, the absolute focal point of that Arsenal team. And the game that I always think of when I think of Fabregas' his importance was, I think it was Aston Villa, where Fabregas was sort of 80% fit, 70% fit. And we had him on the bench as this sort of insurance policy. I think he came on, he set up one, scored the second one, and then he pulled his hamstring. I'm trying to think what year it is, 2009-10. But he was literally, he carried that whole Arsenal team. He was captain of that Arsenal team. He's playing in the first team at 16. He broke into that Invincibles team in that era. And for me, as Geoff says, I think he's obviously tailed off now, but in his pomp, he was, in my opinion, one of the greatest Premier League midfielders ever. Ramsey, fantastic player, but just below that level to what Fabregas is.
Josh, do you agree with that? Because Ramsey's best season, didn't he score like 17 goals and had a few assists? But Fabregas' best season for me is when I think he had like maybe 15, 16 goals in the first half of the season, carried us, like someone was saying, for the whole of the season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that Fabregas showed for us over a sustained period that he could carry us. I think Ramsey has carried us through certain games, particularly, dragged us back into finals. Won us a couple of trophies with important goals. I would say that, that's one thing that Cesc didn't really do for us. But overall, I don't know, if Ramsey signs a new contract and stays, signs a 4-year deal and we get him to at least his mid-30s, then he would be, for me, you can regard him as a legend.
Yeah, because with having Xhaka and El Neni in the team, it does free him up to go and do what he does best. Rather than the previous seasons, he's been the one holding the fort in midfield when he has been able to play.
I can't remember comparing the two. I can't remember Cesc having nowhere near as many bad games as I've seen Rambo play.
Oh, I can think of plenty against Barcelona. Plenty against Barcelona. Have you seen? Just his games as a compilation of them, even when he's playing for Chelsea, of how he just accidentally plays assists for the likes of Lionel Messi and Gerard Piqué. He's got form on it.
Oh dear, yeah. So it is quite odd how he does that. Right, one for you. That's one for everybody. One for you, Simon, from Fred Thurbin. He says, are we expecting to challenge City next season, or should we use that season to bring in a younger manager and gain experience for a season or two? And I know one of the young managers we've been linked to was Tommy Tuchel, and he's off to PSG, isn't he? According to the one of the pods I listened to.
Yeah, he's off to PSG.
Is there any point next season? Should we just buy nobody because we're not going to win the league because Man City are going to win it for the foreseeable future?
I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for anyone to challenge Manchester City, simply because, City, it's all set up there, isn't it? And they probably just need to bring in 2 or 3 players, at a push, really. It's going to be so hard for anyone to challenge him. The challenge for Arsenal on their front is, first of all, to get back in the top 4 and then build long term. I think that is, for me, is the way that Arsenal got to do it now. Realise that we're not going to be able to fix this in a summer. I think whoever comes in, I would like to see a new manager come in, but when eventually Wenger goes, that person is going to need 2-3 years to work through this squad and build it to challenge in the way that we've seen, as much as we'll hate to say it, Pochettino at Tottenham. He's taken time. He's 4 years now and he's starting to build a squad. And I think we're going to have to be prepared for that, to challenge this City team. I mean, we're miles off them. We are, in terms of points and in terms of performance and how we play, we are so far off Manchester City that there is just no way that I can see Arsenal challenging for the title next season. But they can build to challenge for it, in 2-3 years' time, and they can certainly easily get back into the top 4. But in terms of challenging City, I just cannot see Arsenal challenging for them. But the prospect they need to work on is competing with City in 2-3 years and getting in that top 4.
We've got the right people upstairs, and that means they can get the right people on the pitch. Just the bloke in the middle. That's the issue. Right, one for you, Josh. It's from Jonas82, who you know well from the radio show. He says, if we are going to keep experimenting in the remaining league games like this, wouldn't it be better to get Mertesacker back in alongside Chambers and Holding? He surely will provide them with more experience, guidance and stability instead of Mustafi. So I like that. That's a good question.
It is a good question. I don't think Per wants to play a game of football anymore, does he? I think he came out and said that he's just tired and old. And he's just he's just buzzing around. He's just buzzing around the field now. So I don't really know about bringing in Per. I think that we missed a trick personally by not maintaining with Holding and Chambers through the Europa League, because I think that centre-back pairing is more than good enough to at least have got us through the CSKA Moscow tie. And that would have been where they would have got, their experience from. But, do I know better than Wenger? Probably not. But
out that.
Yeah, maybe we'll leave that as a rhetorical question.
I'm just looking how old those two players are. I've clicked on youngest to oldest by mistake. Rob Holding is 22.
Chambers 25, isn't he?
23. Yeah. I thought Chambers was a couple of years older as well. Those two will be doing it for each other. They'll be learning together. That'd be, wouldn't it be great if they grew up like Keown and Adams and went on to represent England and win everything for their club and fuck all for England.
Well, Holding started for England through their run at the Under-23 World Cup.
Yeah.
But he was paired with Alfie Mawson, off the top of my head, the Swansea centre-back, who is very, very good.
Scored a couple of goals against us for Swansea.
He has, indeed.
Yeah, I've got him in my dream team. He's not too bad. Right, this is a question from everybody. Right, this is from Nicky. Oh, of course, Nicky Wilson being the tit as usual. Right, everyone gets to answer this with one name. Arsene Wenger is leaving in the summer. You have 3 choices of either Sam Allardyce, Alan Pardew or Tony Pulis. Who do you choose and why? And he's ended it, #Henri's glittery beard. And oddly, he's put that. No one knows this, but tonight's podcast is called... Thierry Henry's sparkly beard. So, Geoff, out of those 3, which one would you want? I know you're not going to pick Pardew.
Not going to happen, mate. Forget them 3. Three shit choices. I'm sorry.
I think that's why he's done it.
Give us something to chew on at least.
There you go, Nicky. Geoff has said it's official. You've been a tit. Anyone else want to answer Nicky's? He usually says really good questions, but I think the recent results have taken their toll on Nicky's ability to write questions.
No offence to Nicky, by the way. It could have been anybody. You're not going to go with any of them 3 managers, surely. It's got to be a trick question or something, isn't it?
Who would you have, Geoff, then, if you were picking not one of those 3?
You know what? I'm going to get a load of stick for it, but I would run with someone like Eddie Howe and let him run for 3-4 years. See how he gets on.
Imagine the grief he'd get the first game we draw. God, it'd be riotous.
Well, imagine the grief I'd give everyone if we hired Eddie Howe. Oh my God.
Oh no,
not a fan of that man. Not a fan.
Really? Well, for what reason? Can I ask?
He seems to have got a free ride by being English. A lot like Jack Wilshere, funnily enough. Eddie Howe tactically, I just don't think he can deal with any team outside of Bournemouth. We saw when he went to Burnley a couple of seasons ago. He couldn't do that. Had to come back to Bournemouth. He just fits that club so well, and to me, I don't think he can adapt his style. The fact that he continues to play Andy Sermon in the midfield in the Premier League is more than enough for me to not want him there. And he can't deal with really top-class players. You've seen Jermaine Defoe. He was scoring 20-odd goals for a piss-poor Sunderland team last season. How many goals has he got this season for them? he's maybe got 10. The fact that he can't utilise him properly. Had the same problem with Jack Wilshere last season, that Jack Wilshere was actually playing well for them, but the fact that they couldn't properly utilise him, he got out of his depth and had to... The only reason Jack was dropped purely was because he couldn't balance a midfield around him with the right players, because Harry Arter was playing well, but then you got Josh King came into a run of form and it just pushed Jack out of the side. And for me, Eddie Howe, maybe in Everton, that's kind of his level. Now, I mean, to be honest, with our season, we could end up at an Everton level. But for me, he's not the kind of manager that could make a step up, or at least he'd need to prove himself.
I think the thing that's edging me towards someone like an Eddie Howe is the style of football he plays. I'm just terrified that once we lose Wenger, which is inevitable, that we're going to go into a run of maybe 3 coaches in 5 years, and the change of style. I'd rather still keep having a go at the way we're at least trying to play football at the moment, rather than playing that long ball stuff that some teams do play.
I mean, there are other managers in world football that play the Wenger style, or at least similar to that, and there are young coaches who are available. And looking at how the Cronkies have made changes across their other sports teams, and especially one of the more successful stories from the LA Rams is bringing in a young, hungry coach who, to be fair, surpassed all expectations by getting them to the playoffs. I'd look at someone like a Julian Nagelsmann, who, for some reason, Bayern Munich have just looked past. And he would be, he fits the German model that we look to be doing. He's young. He needs that next step in his career with Hoffenheim, because arguably he's not going to challenge in a league with Bayern Munich that's just going to sweep up all his best talents. And he can come to the Premier League. You've got Sven and Raul, and they're a world-class back team that can support a young manager through his progression. And I think that's exactly the kind of person we need to be looking at.
Allegri for me, after Tony Pulis.
I think it's a poison chalice, though. I think it's going to be a miracle if anyone does anything. I would like to get to 3/4 cup finals in the next 5 years, which I don't think is going to happen. I'll take it now, though.
They always say you want to be the one after the successor, like the one after Moyes was, and Bruce Rioch, wasn't it, after George Graham? How long did Bruce Rioch have?
Won.
Yeah.
Right, that's a good question, because it's such a shit question. We got a good bit of a chit chat out of that. Right, Rudy Wilson. This one can go to you, Geoff. He says, "Do you think Eddie Nketiah should be given the game time the likes of Wilcock, Niles and Nelson all have? The only thing about that is Eddie is still, I think he's only possibly 18, with those lots like 19, 20, 21. What do you think?"
It's really, really difficult, because he was those League Cup games. It was so promising when he came on and did a job for us. But it's all right giving them experience, but at the same time you could tip them over the edge if they have a couple of nightmares. In big games, like in any game in the Premier League is a big game for these young kids coming through. It must be amazing for them. So you have got to be very, very careful. We don't know what his temperament's like, whether he's one of them lads that could have a bad game and brush it off, or whether he just hold it in for a few weeks and and have to live with it. So it is very, very difficult. At the same time, we're in a difficult position, Arsenal. All right, we're pushing for 4th, and it doesn't look like we're going to get anywhere near it. I don't even think is it still mathematically possible? I'm not sure it is it? I'm not sure. But anyway,
for us to get what?
Yeah, 4th, top 4. I've not even looked at the league table for a while.
We are on 54 points.
I think if Spurs win tomorrow, it's
done. 13 ahead.
Yeah,
13
but
ahead.
It's difficult for them young kids that come in. So we still need points on the board. We still need to try and win games to keep, or even try and gain that winning mentality. Hopefully that will get us into the Europa League final. So it's a difficult one, and there's other players that's in front of him that would maybe have an argument as well, to get game time. So he's got plenty of time. If he's good enough, he'll play.
Just looking at Eddie, Nelson, and Willock are all 18. That's how much notice I took. But they've been involved. When on Transfer Market, it says how many games they've been in the squad of. And I think this sometimes includes the under-23 squad. So take this with a pinch of salt. But it said Eddie has been involved in 23 squads and played 9 games. Nielsen 20 squads and played 15 games, and Willock 14 squads and played 10 games. So I haven't got time to go and have a look and take away how many under 23 games, but they're all 18 and they're all playing for the under 23s and doing well and made it through to the first team. For them, the next few seasons are going to be fantastic. And Maitland-Niles is 20. He's been involved in 38 squads and played 24 games. There was that stat, Simon. Did you see about how many minutes, Premier League minutes, youth products have got this season? Do you remember anything about that?
What was it? What was the stat?
I think it was like we've had 6,000 minutes.
Yeah, it's that. It's Bellerin that's doing that, though. To be honest,
is it?
Well, yeah, he's our academy product, isn't he? That starts regularly within the.
I guess Jack would be in that bracket as well.
Yeah, Jack's in there.
Well, they should limit that to under teenagers.
I mean, the thing with academies, and it's very. I mean, I know someone who was working at Arsenal during the 2009-10 or 2009 it was when they won 2009. I think it was when they won the FA Youth Cup with Wilshere and Frimpong and Coquelin was in the team, Chesney, and he said watching that team, you thought, I mean, these guys are fantastic. They're all going to go on and be sort of, sensational first team players. And the reality is, you're probably only going to get one out of the crop. And in that case, it was Wilshere. And it's probably going to be the same with this lot, with Nketiah and Willock and all that lot. But even if we only get one player out of it, it still saves you, someone like when Wilshere comes through, it saves you 30, 40 million quid instead of buying someone. So it is all worth it. But out of this slot, I still think you're only going to get one out of Nketiah, Willock. And for me, the one will be Reiss Nelson. Because for me, he is the pick of the bunch.
Lovely. Right. One from Schwinn, who is walking around the back streets of Italy, according to his Twitter. This will be for you, Josh. I'm forgetting what order I'm giving these to you lot in. Thoughts on VAR being shunned by the Premier League teams? Personally, I think it's inevitable that we incorporate smart solutions in the game, but rules are too vague and VAR continues to depend on humans. That, for me, is a problem, not as clear-cut, is it? So I think they've agreed that next season it's not going to be in all the games, but they're still going to have it in some of the cup games, are they?
Yeah, so they're from what I could ascertain, they're continuing with the trial rather than utilising it, which I think is correct, because the current system of where they phone up to Thunderbird 5 and ask Mike Dean what's going on just is a poor experience for everyone involved. But whereas you look at the rest of Europe, where the likes of Italy and Germany go with we've seen it in the Europa League or no, it was in the international friendlies. That was it. That you saw the referee having to march over to the side of the field where a big old TV came up on an arm, and at least there's something visual for people in the stadium to at least acknowledge what's occurring. The UK
just standing there.
Yeah, with his finger up his bum and another one in his ear.
I like the way they hold it to their ear, like we don't know what they're doing.
Well, you know what you're doing because you're sitting on your arse watching it on TV and the commentator's saying we're going to VAR. But imagine, you're in a 60,000 seater stadium in row triple Z. Yeah. You can't see what's going on. So it just needs to be better thought out and allow the referee on the pitch to make the decision again and not have to refer it up, as I said, to Thunderbird 5 to work out what's going on and get told by someone else that you've made a mistake. Because nobody likes hearing that, especially the arrogant Premier League refs.
Have we seen what's happened in Germany tonight, though, with VAR?
No.
So the Mainz-Freiburg game's going on, and they've gone in for half-time, and then VAR said, oh, no, it was a penalty of handball. So they've had to get them all out of the changing rooms, get them back on the pitch, let the player take the penalty. He scored the penalty, and then they've gone back in the changing rooms half-time.
Jeff, do you want to give this a fuck off old school, or do you want me to do it?
A right old fuck off, that is, mate. Don't worry about that. Sorry.
What a load of bollocks. Fuck it all off out the window. What do you think, Geoff? Get rid of it? You're not a fan of it, are you?
No, not at all. No, just leave it, mate. What's the point? There's nothing wrong with the game at the minute. I think we might as well just run with it.
Yeah, too clinical. I don't want it being decided by that. It's the rub of the green sometimes. Bit of bad luck, dodgy penalty. Fuck it, that's football. That's what we have grown up with. But it's the modern way, isn't it? It works for NFL. Works brilliant. And I watch a lot of NFL. Watch two games every weekend. But I just don't see it working in Premier League, but others are going to have different opinions on that, so I'll shut up and go to the. We've got 2 more questions. Need to get through these. This is from Neil McKeown. He says, has anyone been watching the Geoff much? Will he be a significant part of our squad next season? So I've gone and got his details up. He has played 7 League 1 games. They're all feeder league games. So he's had 387 feeder league minutes, and we all know that doesn't even equate to a proper game. He's been playing right wing most of the time, and they lost, 1-1, drew, 1, and then drew, and he wasn't in the last game. So I doubt any of us can build up any kind of synopsis from that.
No.
So,
tweet.
Where's he on loan? Is he at Amiens or at Rennes?
Angers, the angry team.
Tell him to. The best solution is to tweet Chris Carpenter, because if anyone's fucking seen him, he'll have seen him.
He's probably staying at Chris's.
Yeah, he's probably staying at Chris's. Chris is probably giving him one of his 67,000 Arsenal shirts to wear when he goes to bed or something. So. And
trying to entice him into the silk sheets, not in a dodgy way, just to keep him warm. I'm leaving that where it is because I don't know where I was going. And right, final question. This will be for you, Simon, as you've done a wonderful job hosting. From Sinrath Murali. I think I might have just pulled that off. I think that's Sriguna, which is what I usually say. He says, I know, apart from his goal, wait till I get my tooth back. Apart from his goals, I feel Nacho Monreal has had an average season defensively. Considering Hector's problems on and off the pitch, does it leave us with a potential change of the entire back 5 for next season? If yes, do you see Wenger / new manager doing it?
I would be very, very surprised if Wenger or the new manager change the entire back 5. Judging from what's being reported and what people say, it looks like they want a goalkeeper, centre back, and a holding midfielder. Personally, I think Bellerin's just had a bit of a tough time. I think he's played an incredible amount of football, Bellerin.
He's played the most number of minutes for the squad.
Exactly,
season.
And partly because we haven't had really any other right backs to play there. I don't like Callum Chambers there. He's not a right back in my opinion. So Bellerin's had to play a lot there. So I think, he'll do from a break in the summer. I'm not sure whether he'll go to the World Cup. I certainly don't think he'll be the starting right back for Spain. I imagine that'll be Carvajal. I agree we need a new goalkeeper. I think you need one new centre back. And then left back, I still think Monreal's had a pretty good season. Again, I think he's another one he didn't have a great game on Sunday, but a bit like Bellerin, he's had to play so many minutes because Wenger hasn't had the faith in Kolasinac, and Maitland-Niles is very raw. But admittedly, perhaps the goals have slightly elevated Nacho's cult status. But defensively, I still think he's been good. I would like to, if they decide that Kolasinac isn't the way to go, for whatever reason they want to get rid of him, whether that's Wenger or a new manager, I would like someone sort of around the 21, 22 age to come in and be an understudy to Monreal, not necessarily the first choice, but to play sort of 15, 18 games, because Nacho is getting towards the end of his career. Been a great signing, I think, great servant for us. He's 5-6 years, but someone to eventually build into his shoes and come into the back 4. But I wouldn't go about changing, all of it. A new centre back and a new keeper for me, and that would be all right, I think.
Lovely, jubbly. Right. Thank you very much for all your questions, people. I've seen while we're doing the pod, there's been a few more questions, but we've run out of time and I didn't write them down. So I've got to move on to predictions now, Simon.
Yeah, predictions so I think the only game we've got is this weekend, am I right? Which is
1:30 at home to West Ham.
West Ham. So we'll
Sky
start.
Sports.
We'll start with you, Danny. What is your prediction, please?
3-1 Aubameyang. But their record, they've won 2 of the last 17 away games versus Stoke and Huddersfield. And they've played 17, won 2, drawn 6, lost 9, and the goal difference of -17. So I think there's definitely going to be goals in that. So I'm going 3-1 Aubameyang.
And Geoff, what are you going for?
I'm going to go for 2-0 Danny Welbeck. I fancy he's on a scoring run.
Nice. And Josh?
He's muted again, isn't
He's
he?
muted himself.
Oh, I'm muted again. I'm going to go with a 3-1 win to Arsenal, but Arnautovic to score first.
Oh, nice. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Arsenal and Ramsey, I think, for me.
Oh, cheeky.
And we'll have some shout-outs as well. Go reverse order. Josh, any shout-outs this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go one for at Cocolito. So Lana from the Hipsters, she was badgering me about giving her a shout out when I said was coming on. So there you go, Lana.
Very nice. Geoff, what about you?
Hold on, let me just open up Twitter. Okay. Oh, this will be interesting. Remember old Memsy?
Oh, I do, yeah.
He's now at Durichaga, or Durchiga. He was the last person that tweeted me, so I think it's only fair to give him a shout out. That's how stale it's got on Twitter for me, mate.
And Dan, what about you? Who are you shouting out this week?
One from Jason, because Jason has to have his dirty fingers and everything. Mark Gunner Runner at MARKY249, running the London Marathon for children with vision impairment and blind children. He's doing that on Sunday. Good luck to him. I don't know if he's going to be wearing anything special. If Mark, you want to send a picture of yourself in your running gear to the pod, don't do it on Sunday because I'll be asleep. But any other day, then I'll retweet it. And you can go there, go to him, and he's got his fundraising up there. He's got to raise about 1,500 quid. You've got to pay. If you don't have that much to do the London Marathon, you've got to pay it anyway. So one way or another, they're getting the money out of him. But the main one is a bloke called Chris Deely at C. No, that's not right. At DEELEY, then the letter C. I did a magnificent tweet the other day. I did it saying, a quick look at tonight's fixtures. We will pass. Oh, no, that's not it. He stole my tweet. My one was, here we go. A great night of Harry Kane so far. Real Madrid 0, Juventus 1. 2 minutes, Harry Kane. Wolves 1, Derby 0. 6 minute, Harry Kane. I went through 5 fixtures and I did Harry Kane as a goal scorer for everything. Ladbrokes only went and cut and pasted the fucking thing, didn't they? And stole it. And so my tweet to them was, I'm not sure what I should be more upset. I'm not sure if I should be proud that Ladbrokes stole my tweet or that I should be sad that they got 1,700 retweets and I only got 66. So this Deely bloke, he went and found it and tweeted me, and then they deleted it, the cheeky fuckers. So Ladbrokes, that's not on, is it? It's not cricket.
Did see they stole it. That was a great. Speaking of bookmakers, there was a lovely bit from Paddy Power when they paid out on the first goal scorer to being Harry Kane in the Man City game. I thought it was great from them.
Preston did one as well, didn't they? Oh,
great, I thought.
It's been brilliant. Then someone else did a compilation of all the ones like Harry Kane winning the Chinese Grand Prix. What's your shout out, Simon?
My shout out is a personal one. I work for a press agency. You can find us on Twitter called @HatersTeamwork. We've got a YouTube channel which we're doing quite a lot of work for. So we've got about 30,000 subscribers, but we upload. So we're at near enough every Premier League game. We're at every Arsenal pre- and post-match press conference. You can find the Wenger from this Thursday. His morning press conference will be up there within sort of 15 minutes of his finish. You can watch the whole thing start to finish. Post-match after a game, you can watch it start to finish. So yeah, give it a follow, give it a subscribe, and your support is very, very welcome.
What's that at on YouTube? What's it
on
called?
On YouTube, you can find it under My Football Views, all one word. And it's a YouTube channel. And we sort of do all sort of fan stuff. So we were there.
Tweet it now for you.
Oh, thank you very much. Filming the sort of Liverpool bus arriving, player mix zone stuff, press conferences, training sessions, all sorts. So, but we do a lot of Arsenal. So my boss is an Arsenal fan as well. So. Do go give it a follow. And I think that is about it, gents. So, Josh, thank you very much for being on. And to you, Geoff.
Always a pleasure. You know that.
Danny, you didn't have a choice, but thank you for being awake.
Yeah, and thank you very much for stepping in and hosting. That's 5 hosts in 5 shows. It's been very good.
And thank you to the listeners for putting up with me. That was a Bergkamp Wonderland. Good night, and keep it Arsenal.
And here's some more shenanigans after the podcast ended.
That was a Bergkamp Wonderland. Good night, and keep it Arsenal.
Very good. Honk, honk. Hey.
Very, very good.
Only
Very
half
good.
9 and we're all done.
Good timing as well.
So 1 hour and 40 minutes, roughly. 45 minutes. That's pretty good.
It'd been 1 hour 40 if I hadn't muted myself twice.
That was just a pause for drama, for dramatic.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And that's why I did it 3 times during the radio show as well.
On purpose.
What a nice, smooth podcast that was, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, very good.
Very
done.
Very good. So now I've got to, not even had dinner yet.
No, me too. I'm going to go and get me lasagna. So I'm all fan of it.
Lovely.
I think that's about all we've got to say, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. Next week's show is going to be trying to get these organised as quick as possible. We've got David and 2 gaps. And then the week after that is Raj. And then Raj is joining us twice in 3 weeks. He's only back for 3 weeks, so we're having him twice in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's what you got to do, fit him in as and when, you know.
He said he wants to host as well. Normally I have to
He'll be a brilliant host.
He'll be
it's
going to be smooth. It's going to be sponsored by Ferrero Rocher, that pod.
Do you still play Football Manager, Dan, or have you stopped?
I tend to get so into it. I mean, I don't like it the way that every year they bring out a new one for 40 quid. And then all they've done is move the menu from one side to the other.
Updated the database.
Yeah, I mean that should be a £10 update and keep it the way you want.
Yeah,
but I don't like the fact that I have to. I want all the proper players' faces and names.
I always download the face packs. I've got them
all. I just never sure how to use them.
I'm playing 2017. I've got all and I've got the badges for the cups and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's the badges I use for the podcast and the JPEGs. I use them all from a big file I've got of about 30,000. But next season they got the full German league, haven't they, for the first time ever?
Oh, I did hear them say that on one of the podcasts actually.
Yeah, that's where I heard it.
Still playing.
That was Totally Football.
That was it. Yeah, I'm still playing 2017.
2010's my favourite.
I've got the upside of only really listening to 2 football podcasts. I can pretty much tell you which one it was mentioned on.
I listen to the Guardian, Totally Football, Arseblog, and Goodness in the USA. They're brilliant.
I don't like the Times one anymore.
I'm on the Football Ramble at the moment.
Yeah, Football Ramble's great. I love the Magic Sponge. I've just smashed through nearly all of that.
I love it.
I missed it. I don't know. I just sort of missed it being about but now I've gone back and I've smashed my way through it. I think
it passed a lot of people by, that podcast.
So good. Oh, Dan, do you listen to it?
There are a few others I've done. I listen to most podcasts at one point. I just don't have enough time. I'd rather be watching TV. But I've been listening to Quickly Kevin. That's very, very good. It's Josh Widdicombe.
Do you ever listen to any non-football ones?
Oh, good God, yes.
Yeah, I listened to, what was it? That was great. You probably listened to it. Serial, listen to that?
I tried it. I'm not a fan of Americans speaking.
Oh, fair enough.
They annoy me.
Other than the Goodness in the USA.
Well, yeah, one of them. They're 50% English. I listen to like Joe Rogan. Nearly all of his I'll listen to. I'll watch those actually because I'll have those on when I'm going to bed. Howard Hughes is The Unexplained Mysterious Universe. We should like Talk Nerdy as well, but she became a bit of a tit. Ian Collins used to do a really good one, but I don't think he does anymore. Anything by Dan Carlin, whether it's Hardcore History or Common Sense, I listen to that. I've started to listen to a few wrestling ones, even though I'm not really up with the wrestling anymore. Stephen Crowder. And the best podcast ever, Kermode and Mayo, the film review. Easily the greatest podcast ever. I love it.
I'm trying to see what pod my boss was on a few weeks back because he was on an Arsenal podcast. I'm just trying to see what he was on.
Yeah, because I listened to Richard Herring's one.
I listened to that. The
Adam Roller Hastaba.
Yeah, that's what the cool kids are saying.
Yeah,
I went to see him this year.
Nice. Adam Buxton.
I don't like Adam. His voice annoys me.
I really like Adam and Joe. I'm weirdly just on the edge of that generation that grew up with Adam and Joe.
Did you see? Did you hear Catherine Ryan with Richard Herring?
Not yet. I did hear the joke.
God,
was that a podcast that you said?
Yeah, well, I watched the live video. He has a YouTube channel. I watch it on there. Oh my God, that was so vicious. I mean, I don't even usually like blonde women, but she is just something else.
What's the other one?
Someone else.
Another one that I would listen to.
Oh, Stokes scored.
Infinite Monkey Cage.
Oh God, yeah, I've got all of those. I've got thousands, maybe tens of thousands of podcasts I've downloaded. I've got all of those. They're not as good as they used to be.
I don't know.
Still brilliant though.
Mm.
Oh,
I mean, I stopped listening to 606 for
I only like Rory Smith on 606. I don't really like. I really don't like.
Crouch.
I don't like the Friday night show.
I did do Men in Blazers for a bit.
No,
that's good. But again, I was just listening to too many podcasts. Didn't have enough time.
Yeah, that's the thing. My boss was on the Gooner Ramble. Is that any good? I've never listened to it.
That's Giles.
Oh, my boss was on it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant one. That's there's quite a few of them because I always get all those ones mixed up. So yeah,
which is the one that's a 2-hour monologue of Arsenal? Is that Gooner Ramble?
No,
this he was on it with Dave Seeger, I think. Yeah, he was on that a while ago, a couple months ago. He was on that.
Yeah, that's Giles is the host. Well, they share it. Giles is the host of the Gooner Ramble, and it's got Dave on there as well.
But my boss covered Arsenal for years. He was in the 89 film very briefly because he's friends with.
I've not seen that yet. I'm waiting for it to come on stream because I refuse to buy any more physical things that only when I die they'll all go in a skip. Yeah, Kill's on there as well. They're all really good. That's one of my. I do listen to that quite often. That's one of the ones I watch on YouTube. I listen to all the Tom stuff as well. That's good. Yeah, how long ago was your boss on it?
He was on it back in February. I've just seen near the start of Feb.
Right.
8th of Feb, I think it was.
I might have heard that one.
I've heard him. He does the radio a lot when I don't do it. He's good.
What radio station was that? Because I know you did tell me, but is that an online radio station?
It's digital radio. It's online as well. Love Sport, it's called.
I've never heard of it.
It's a new radio. It's only just started about a month ago.
Yeah.
It's very similar to sort of talk sporty style.